Hi everyone, I'm Velina. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back, and welcome to day 2 of what I call Velina's 31 days of spectacular scares. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you so much for the response that I got on my first one that I did last night. I appreciate you all so much. I appreciate the subscribers. I appreciate the comments. It may seem like a little thing, but it means a lot to me. So, and on this video, this has kind of been a crazy day. Let me fix something here. Okay, kind of a crazy day, but I'll talk about that sometime. You don't want to hear about it now. But, you may be wondering, I don't know if you can see my shirt. It says, positive thinking on it. And you might be wondering why I'm wearing this for, to do a Halloween video. Well, when you hear the story, you're going to realize that we need positivity for this. Okay, if you haven't checked out, if you're someone just now finding my channel and you haven't seen my first one about the haunting on the set of Ghost Whisperer, go check that out. Now, okay, it is very creepy, but while it's creepy, the story I'm going to talk about now, I don't feel like what they were dealing with there, and I don't want to give a lot away for the people who haven't watched it, but I don't feel like on the Ghost Whisperer set they were dealing with the same thing. I could be wrong. I mean, who knows? I mean, but a lot went on here. And yes, I do have notes, so if you hear paper rustling around, and I'm probably going to have glasses, but I wanted to get everything in. I've edited it down as best as I can, but I wanted to get the important things in. Because this is a story that I got it from the book. Might as well start. I got it from the book, The Demonologist, and I'm going to go ahead and put these on. Okay. Okay. The Demonologist, and it's about the extraordinary career of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and it's by Gerald Brittle. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there that they've said, I don't know if it applies here or not, but they said that in other stories that some names may be changed to protect, for privacy. So just remember that when I'm saying names, I'm just saying what they gave. But I'm going to go ahead and get into the story. And you've seen the title. I think I'm going to title it something like Don't Mess with the Occult, or something like that. Because this should be a warning. And I hope if anybody's watching this that is maybe doing something, that you'll take this serious. Please take this seriously. Let me get into the story. Okay, it was, actually, it's in the book, The Demonologist, and I think it's chapter 5 or 6. And it's actually called The Conjuring Book, is the name of the story. And this happened in May of 1978. And Ed and Lorraine had been out to dinner. It was a Saturday night, and they had been out to dinner. And they didn't get home until, like, around midnight. And they checked their answering machine. Yeah, we used to have those. But anyway, they checked their answering machine. And they had the usual, their daughter Judy called. A friend from LA had called. A guy that had an appointment with Ed called. It was business. And, the usual thing. And then the last one, they heard like a screechy sounding noise. And finally, a woman's voice came through. And she sounded really upset. And the message they got, it was like a clicking noise they heard at first. And finally, though, they heard a woman's voice. And she sounded upset. And she gave her name as Sandy Foster. Okay, that's what they give in the book. And she sounded very upset. And she said she thought there was something in their house that was hurting her children. And of course, even though by this time it was after midnight, but Lorraine went ahead and tried calling her back, but she could not get through. Uh, she would hear, I'm sorry about the crinkling paper too, but like I said, I gotta have these notes. But, and I should have got some water. I might pause to do that if I need to. But she couldn't get through. It would sound like somebody picked up while it was still ringing, or make a staticky noise. And Lorraine was so concerned about this, she called the operator and had them check it. And even the operator, they checked it, and she was puzzled because she said, there's no reason, it shouldn't be going through. So she wasn't able to get through that night. Then the next day was Sunday, and Ed and Lorraine, and if you're a drinking person, I'm not, if you are, for every time I say Ed or Lorraine, you might want to take a drink. Because I guarantee you I'm going to be saying it a lot. But anyway, Ed and Lorraine went to church on Sunday. And when they got back home, she tried calling her again. And finally, she got a hold of her. And it was the next day, and she talked to her. And she said, okay, where was I? Okay, they talked on the phone, and then by 2 p.m., they were at the Foster house, okay, and it was in Cape Cod, and they had lived there for 13 years. And the family members were, of course, Sandy and her husband, Al, and their 3 children, Meg, who was 15, Joel, who was 14, and Aaron, who was 11. And Ed, what they like to do, Ed went ahead and arranged his recording, because that's what he would do. Like, he would do the interview with, whoever, the family or who he's talking to, and Lorraine would go use her psychic ability, see what she could find. So he set up for recording, and she asked for permission to go, look through the house. And so it started out, and she started her walkthrough. And then Sandy, the mom, she offered it out there that this was probably her fault. And when asked why, she said, Meg, the oldest daughter, that she had always been interested in the occult, witchcraft, and things like that. And get this, she had bought her a book for Christmas on summoning demons. Yeah. Something I wouldn't want in my stocking, I can tell you that. But no, seriously. I don't know what she was thinking. Well, actually, she says that at the time she really didn't think anything about it. I guess maybe if you're not spiritual, I don't know, you think it's, I'm going to lay these pages over here. You think nothing's going to happen. That's what she said. She didn't think anything would happen. And I guess she thought it was just fun and games for her daughter. But no. Then Ed, like I said, take a drink. Ed asked Meg where the book was now. And she said it was upstairs. And she said that you could actually conjure around 75 demons from this book. And he asked her, had she done like any of the rituals or summoning in it. And she said she only did like a couple or so rituals, the easier ones. And she said nothing happened, so she stopped. But what he goes on to say is a lot of times you won't see anything even after a ritual's been done or summoning. They won't respond for, it could be days, it could be months, it could be years, So this is what started all of it. So, okay, Milky's coming over here, and please, honey, don't knock this down. Okay. But anyway, they had trouble twice that week. And the first time was on a Thursday. Milky, no, don't do that. I'm sorry. Seems like everybody's going around. She's just loving on it. She's a very loving cat, and she will. I've got my tripod, and she will love on it. I'm getting back to the story. I'm sorry. I apologize. Probably gonna edit this. Okay, but anyway, I already said that about what he said about the response. Sometimes it takes time, and they had trouble twice in this week, and the first time had been on Thursday, and it was all the kids were home that particular night. The parents were out visiting some of their friends, and the kids had to go to school the next day, and that's why they stayed at home. And Meg had just got out of the shower, and she went downstairs to make sure that the door was locked and the lights were out, and she turned the radio off. And turned the radio on, lights off, okay. And when she went back upstairs, the water was running. And in her bathroom, the water was running. And really, she didn't think much about it. But then she heard the radio come on. And she noticed that the lights were on again. And she called and asked who was there, and no one answered, of course. And she went and looked in on Aaron, and Aaron was asleep. And then she went to Joel's room, and he was awake, but when she asked him about it, he said no, he hadn't been downstairs. And he said he hadn't been downstairs. He was awake, but he hadn't been downstairs. He hadn't messed with the radio or the lights or anything. So she goes back down, and she turns the radio back off and the lights back off. Okay. And then she goes back upstairs, and she had shut the water off. And she gets back upstairs, and it's running again. Okay. And at this point, she's starting to get aggravated because she thinks Joel is playing a prank on her. But then she happened to notice that the lights were back on again. And she, hello, Milky. Don't, Milky. Okay, when she went out in the hall, she noticed that the lights were on again, and at that point, and the radio was on again. And at that point, she went and told Joel she thought someone was in the house. That's what she was thinking. And at this point in the interview, Ed asked Joel if he had heard the radio. Don't, Milky, don't, please. And he said he did. And he also asked him had he turned the water on. And he thought it would catch him off guard, but he told him no. He said he didn't even get out of bed. So that happened. And then he told Meg to go on and continue. And she said she was back. She was back downstairs. Not only was the radio on, but the doll, when she went back downstairs that time, not only was the radio on, but the doll was moving on its own. And she stood there and watched it, just horrified. And that's when she really, really started to get scared. And she ran. She got halfway up the stairs, and she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. And she wanted to scream, but she suppressed it. And she just ran to her room. And she got to her bed. And then she heard what sounded like footprints. Or like something leaving her room going out into the hall, even though her door hadn't opened. And Ed asked her, didn't she find that strange? And she said, oh, well, of course she did. She said she was scared out of her mind. And then he asked if anything else happened after the footsteps. She said, yeah, plenty. She said she heard what sounded like a door slam hard. And it sounded like the furniture was being thrown around. And she saw what she described as a silver light come out of the wood. I guess out of, her wall, I would guess. And then she felt something pull her hair 3 times. And she said every time it pulled, it would pull harder. And finally she did scream, and she ran into Joel's room. And this woke Aaron up. And by this time, Aaron is up, and they're all in Joel's room. And Joel had said they actually got in an argument because Meg wanted to call the police, but he was afraid so, because he had a feeling that, I don't know why, but he had a feeling there wasn't anyone in the house. He had a feeling, I don't know what he felt, but he thought if they called the police, they would get in trouble for pranking him, because they didn't think they'd find anybody. So, anyway, they finally, they ended up calling the parents. And they told them they were just hearing things. And they didn't believe them at all. So, and by the time they come home, everything had stopped, as it would. And so around this part of the interview, Lorraine, take a drink again, Lorraine comes back downstairs, and she gave Ed a nod that he knew that she had picked up on something. But he didn't talk to her at that point because he wanted to go and continue with the interview. And because he wanted to get everything on tape that they said. He wanted to make sure to get everything. So he waited about asking her. And he continued on, and he asked them about the second time. And they said the second time it happened, Aaron wasn't there. It was Meg and Joel. And it had been just the night before, on Saturday night. I guess that maybe the mom did finally, it doesn't sound like it, but maybe she did start to wonder if something was going on. That apparently that's why she called Lorraine. But it said basically, it was the same thing on Saturday night that they had experienced on Saturday. It was basically the same thing they experienced on Thursday. But Meg was in her room, and she was asleep. I think she was asleep at that point. She was in her room, Joel says. And he had just finished a shower. And this is really weird. This part. He heard the radio on. And the light was on too. But I don't think he thought anything of it. Maybe he thought she had gotten up or something. And he went downstairs, and he didn't see anyone but the dog. And the dog was viciously growling at something that couldn't be seen. And the odd thing here is, he said there's no way that the dog heard anything because the dog was deaf. And then he remembered what happened on Thursday, and he ran back up to his room. And he went in his room. And then, I get at this point, Meg was awake. Maybe she wasn't sleeping before, I don't know. But she was in her room. But I guess, this would have woke her up. But Ed asked her if she heard anything that night. And she said yes, she did. She heard what he had described. And she said it seemed like the more scared she got, the louder it got. And she said all she could do, she just lay there. Oh, and also she saw a purple cloud as well. This time she saw a purple, well, I did it that time. She saw a purple cloud in her room. And she just lay down on her bed and closed her eyes. And she had her fists clenched because she was scared. Who wouldn't be? And let me straighten that. No, Milky. No, no. She's got to sharpen her claws. Okay. I'm sorry for the distractions, y'all. Anyway, she closed her eyes and she had her fists clenched up. And then she felt like, she said, what felt like an adult man's hand, very strong, tried to unclench her fists. And when it couldn't unclench her fist, it pulled her arm and almost pulled her halfway off the bed. So then she screamed and she ran back to Joel's room again. Poor thing. But don't mess with stuff like that. Just don't mess with stuff. Milky, please don't do that. But anyway, they wanted to call someone again because Joel and her both said they felt just, even in his room, they felt something like evil. It was just a feeling they had. And they wanted to call someone. But the phone was downstairs. And they didn't want to go downstairs. I don't blame them. But they didn't have a choice. The only other choice would have been going out the window, which Meg actually thought of, but Joel wouldn't let her because they're upstairs. But finally, they had to get their nerve up, and they did. And they just made a run for it and just ran out and through the door. And then they said that whatever was there actually started following them, and it was chasing them. They said they had started running, and when it first started, and there were dogs in the area that were running with them. And when they got close to them, like, they started running backwards, like they sensed something. Kind of like, I guess, the dog at the house was sensing something. And then they were trying to get to a street light. They thought they would feel safer. And as they tried to get to it, they said, and they heard screeching birds as well, too, which is kind of unusual for that time of night. But anyway, they were trying to get to the street light, and they were getting pushed back by something. And they said it was even trying to push them down on the road. But somehow, some way, they eventually got to the street light, and they they got there safely, but it was hard. There was a presence there that was just pressing on them. And like I said, almost knocked them down. And finally, they, I guess they caught their breath, under the street light, and they had planned on what they want to do. There was a campus nearby. They were going to use their phone. So finally, they make it to the campus, and they, by this time, Meg's feet were hurting her from the running and everything, and she was sitting down outside, and I think he said outside the door she was sitting down, and he called and was talking to the parents, and again, they didn't believe him. They told them that they needed to get to bed. Just go to bed. They were imagining things again, and at that point, Joel is starting to get angry, and he tells them, we're not at home. We left because of what's happening. And about that time, he noticed a campus cop had pulled up and was talking to Meg. And I guess he said something about that to whichever parent he was talking to. Because what they suggested was to get the cop to take them home. And they would head straight home and they would meet them there. And of course, by the time they got there, nothing was going on again. But Ed heard the story out, and then he talked to Lorraine, and Lorraine said that she had picked up on something at Meg's door, and she felt it so strong, and it was like she felt a presence when she was walking around the house. She felt a presence, and it like pushed her toward the stairs, so she did not force her way to try to go in, and I don't blame her at all. And he heard this out. They listened to him, and they knew they weren't lying because they said too many things that they kind of got a sense of. And of course, there was a knowing nod from Lorraine, and she had already been through the house. And they asked the family if they would leave for like an hour. Just get out for about an hour, just go somewhere, just go for a ride. And they asked them whatever they did to not discuss the activity that was going on. And if possible, not to even think about it, which I think that would be kind of impossible. But basically, what they had to do was to discern exactly like what the spirit was, because sometimes spirits can fool you. They had to discern what it was so they could dispel it. And what this involves is actually very, very dangerous, because it's provocation, and it's dangerous to anybody. So, and it would be especially, he said it would be especially dangerous to Lorraine, with her being a sensitive, being a clairvoyant. So he was the only one that could do the provoking. She was there just for the clairvoyance. But anyway, he started out like in the basement. After the family, they got their chance. They got out the door and let them do what they wanted. So, and then they started in the basement, and he sprinkled holy water in the four corners, and he said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command all spirits, whether human or diabolical, to leave this dwelling and not return. So he did that there, and then he went to like the first floor, and he did the same thing. And then they started upstairs, and of course they already kind of know that's a hot spot, or there's activity going on up there. But they started upstairs, and they felt like an unease, like fear, and of course that is usually demonic, like a sense of fear and dread like that is. And anyway, then they heard a door slam, and they saw movement upstairs. But nonetheless, they pressed on and went on upstairs, and or they started upstairs, and about halfway, they felt a pressure pushing them back. And no matter how hard they tried, it kept pushing them. And they were afraid they were going to be pushed down the steps and somebody be hurt. So they slowly backed down. And then there was a sound of a door slamming and like demonic or diabolical laughing. And that just annoyed Ed. And he sprinkled the stairs with holy water. And after he did that, they were able to get up the stairs. And they had noticed the smell of mildew. I guess it's the thing. And but anyway, they finally did make it up the steps, and they went to Aaron's room first, the younger daughter, and nothing was there. But he went on, with the holy water, and then that was in Aaron's room, and he recited, a command, there, and he went to Joel's room, did the same thing. Then they finally get to Meg's room, and this actually was the one they were dreading, and all of a sudden they were taken back with a feeling of sadness, and just unease and sadness, but they said this is a trick that especially the demonic will try to play on sympathy, and you just have to ignore it, and that's exactly what he did. And he pushed on, and even though they didn't see anything, they felt this feeling, and they said the temperature it was freezing in the room. And he went on, and I want to make sure to get this right, what he said. He had his crucifix, and okay, wait. as I said, he sprinkled the holy water. And he said, in the name of God, show yourself or leave. And then he asked for a sign of departure, or if not, he said there would be an exorcism done that day. And at that point, like that feeling of sadness, misery, that disappeared. Gradually, the temperature went back to normal. And he, and then they looked and they saw Meg's little collection. She had of all kinds of books on rituals, witchcraft. She had black conjuring candles, and that is what invited this in. And he got that stuff and put it in the garbage and said a prayer in the room, and basically their job was done. And they went back downstairs, and some of it I have memorized, and some I have to look to make sure I'm right. And I'm going to watch when I'm editing. And I hope, please forgive me if it's after midnight. I hope to get this up before midnight, but if it's after, please forgive me. Still count the second day, okay? Like I said, I've had some crazy things going on. Yesterday was busy, and today's been crazy. But anyway, when they got back downstairs, they saw the family was back, and they were sitting down in the driveway. And Lorraine motioned them to come in. And when they came in, Ed had a few things to say about them. Let's see. What I do with this, I might have to pause. Okay, I'm back. You probably won't even know I paused. Okay. I found my page I was looking for. But anyway, Lorraine motioned for the family to come in, and Ed had a few things to say to them. He told them that their future actions would depend on what happened now. And he told them if they were thinking about improving their lives, now would be the time to do it. And he said definitely no more. No more summonings, no more rituals, nothing like that. And they had to keep a positive attitude. And he highly recommended that they get a clergyman to bless the house. And he explained that what had happened was that Meg's meddling in the occult had drawn in the negative spirit. And actually, please don't move that again, Milky. Actually, even if with a blessing done, it would still only be effective if they kept a positive lifestyle and attitude. And he also recommended that if they were, religious people or would consider, that going to church would be a good show of sincerity. And, he told them, he said that he and Lorraine had done all they could do. It was now up to them. And it sounds like he was a little angry at this case, and you kind of can't blame him. I mean, it's, maybe the mom didn't know any better, and I guess the daughter, but, maybe she didn't know any better either, but you would have thought. But, I don't know, that was the 70s, and, that was around the time, when The Exorcist came out. I think a lot of people became aware, and got into church and got more spiritual, but I guess maybe they didn't think anything of it. But anyway, he highly recommended that they, if they possibly could, to get a blessing done that day, and to just stay in a keep a very positive atmosphere. And then as he went to the door, he had one last thing to say. He said, by the way, the spirit that's here is dormant, but it hasn't vanished. And about the time he said that, Lorraine was holding her glasses, in which I can take mine off now. She was holding her glasses, and they were taken out of her hand, grabbed like out of her hand by something that couldn't be seen. And they twirled around in the air and hit the ground. And so the family just looked shocked. Okay, I'm sorry about the interruptions there. I'm sorry about this being later tonight. But are you all familiar with the story? I just wonder what happened. I hope they took his advice. It sounded like they really needed to. I hope they did. If you know, I'd love to know a follow-up on it. Of course, they may not have one. Maybe they didn't get one. But I really hope they took, Ed's advice on that. And, but don't. This is, if this doesn't tell you not to mess with anything like that, I don't know what does. It could have been much worse. I mean, it could have possessed one. It's probably what it intended on doing, and it probably would have been Meg. Or, that she was the one that was, I guess it could have possessed any of them, but she was messing with the occult. But please do not do that. Please. Yes, I believe in things like that. I know some people don't believe in the Warrens, and that's your right if you don't. I do. I was always fascinated by them. Can I prove that everything they said was real? No, I can't. But I just know how I feel. And yeah, I was always fascinated by their cases. And I think in my opinion, they did good. So, and I want to talk about that. And I'll probably have some more stories about them. And tell me what you thought of this story. Had you heard it? Like I said, if you read The Demonologist, you probably heard it. But tell me what you think. Have you ever known anybody who had an experience like that? I'd like to hear about if you did. Just comment whatever you like. And again, thank you so much. I appreciate it so much that you watched my video last night. And like I said, I have some new subscribers. I appreciate all my subscribers. I appreciate everybody that watches or comments or anything. I appreciate it so much. More than you know. But I'd better go now because I need to get this edited and uploaded, and hopefully it'll be before midnight. If not, forgive me, please. But I'm going to go now. And again, just thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this, despite the distractions, would you give me a thumbs up? And like I said, comment. And if you would like to subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. It really would. I would appreciate it. And thank you so much. I appreciate everything. And I hope you have a good one. I'm going to go for now. And, yeah, Milky's eating now. She says goodnight too, my kitty cat. She likes to get in on videos, and she's on TikTok too. Oh, I will say one final thing before I go. Some of the problems I've had is with I had to get a new phone yesterday. That was, and it's messed up some of, my accounts. And the only, out of my social media, the only thing it messed up was Instagram. I'm now Velina Welch 777, whereas I was Velina Welch 1087. It's 777 now. So, and then there's other things like places I order from I'm having trouble with. But anyway, I want to put that out there, so I'm going to have to change my, I had that page with my socials on it. I'm going to have to change that. But anyway, I'm going to go, and hope everyone has a great night, day, whenever you're watching this. And thank you so much, and good night.